What happens when the galaxy's most fearsome assassin guild takes on an impossible target? Journey through an epic tale of rebellion and cunning, where an underestimated species defies the odds and brings a mighty empire to its knees. If you enjoy captivating stories that explore the depths of galactic conflict and the triumph of the underdog, make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more thrilling content. What? The target is a human. No, I understand. But seriously, what? There's no one in the universe who could be that foolish. I thought the Shadowfang mercenaries could eliminate anything. Mind your tongue when you speak of that name, fool. We had to abandon it after the fallout with the Zarkesh Confederacy years back. I don't care about any confederacy. I want you to eliminate a human. The mercenaries' claws scrape the table in frustration. We don't accept contracts to kill humans. Then I'll find another group. You can try. No other syndicate in the universe will touch that job. And even if you find a rogue agent with a death wish, they won't succeed. Not without either dying or betraying you. Do you really think humans are invincible? I never said they're invincible. In fact, I'm well aware they're mortal. But we don't take jobs to kill them. Why in all dimensions not? Because the only way to kill a human and live long enough to enjoy the payment is to drop a star bomb on them from orbit, just to be sure. Then grab the fastest ship and escape before other humans track you down. After that, you'd better find a way to another universe and stay there for the rest of your wretched life. You must be joking. Tell me, does your home planet require compulsory education? What does that have to do with anything? Humor me. Yes, 10 years of basically indoctrinating our youth to be as compliant as a Tarkian drone. Sounds typical for government-run education. Did you learn any history? Some. Then they must not teach interstellar history. Sit down, buy a drink, and I'll explain why no mercenary worth their blade will take a contract to kill a human. The drinks were ordered, and the veteran mercenary took a long sip before turning to his new companion. You recall the Zarkesh Confederacy? Yes. What about it? Do you know what happened to them? Their confederacy collapsed after investing too much in conquering a death world. That death world is the human homeworld. And it wasn't the planet that broke the Zarkesh, it was the humans. How? The mercenary took another long sip of his drink. The Zarkesh Confederacy once dominated this sector of the universe. Hundreds of species and civilizations were subjugated, crushed into compliance. Obey or perish, that was the Zarkesh creed. The council governing what wasn't under Zarkesh control at the time could do little to counter the relentless war machine driving Zarkesh expansion. They postured, debated, and even pleaded, but nothing they did could halt the inexorable advance of the Zarkesh. System after system, the universe was falling under the Emperor's rule. Then they discovered a system named Sol by its inhabitants. The name wasn't claimed by any other system, so the Zarkesh let them keep it. Humans lived on the third planet in the system Poor Souls. They had just begun exploring their solar system when the Zarkesh arrived. The humans were divided into various political entities they called nations. This fragmentation made it easier for the Zarkesh, as the divided human nations were slow to react. The legions swept across their lands before their next targets even knew they were doomed, thanks to communication disruptors. Despite these disadvantages, the humans resisted fiercely. 1 galactic standard month. That's how long it took the Zarkesh to claim control over the planet. Most pre-FTL worlds fell within a week, but those humans fought like possessed beings, especially when the remaining nations finally realized they were being invaded. They even managed to halt the Zarkesh ground troops once before reinforcements arrived and crushed the final bastion of resistance. From there, it was the usual monotonous administrative task of splitting the new captives into labor groups and assigning them to jobs that would ultimately benefit their new masters. Many of the surviving humans were farmers and herders, so the Zarkesh let them continue their trade. An army moves on its stomach, as the old human saying goes, and the Zarkesh war machine was insatiable. A few 100,000 were transported off-world to toil in the mines elsewhere. Those humans are unnaturally strong and resilient due to the high gravity of their home planet, making them exceptionally suited for the perilous task of mining. The worlds and species conquered by the Zarkesh typically followed a predictable pattern. Initially, there would be a year or two where the overlords had to be quite heavy-handed until the captives learned the new order. Then a few years of relative peace would ensue, followed by a period of rebellions and uprisings, 5 to 10 years after the initial conquest. Once these were crushed, there usually wasn't enough spirit left to resist further, and the survivors simply resigned themselves to their fate. But these humans deviated from the script. They begrudgingly fell in line a few months after the invasion was over, and when the anticipated uprisings didn't occur, I imagine the Zarkesh felt quite satisfied, thinking they had broken the will of the primates. If I had to give one compliment to the humans, it would be this: they are natural strategists. They know how to bide their time and strike at the opportune moment. For 20 Earth years, the humans worked, lived, and reproduced like silken vermin. Not that the Zarkesh cared about the growing human population. More bodies for the grinder, they'd say. They even offered incentives like extra rations and special privileges if a human female bore more than 4 offspring. If only the Zarkesh knew. The humans weren't breeding more workers. They were raising an army. The human administrators and leaders who surrendered to the Zarkesh were, at least half of them, a ruse. Puppets meant to give the illusion of submission while the true leadership went underground, quite literally in some cases, and continued to direct their forces. Covert training camps, nocturnal schools, secretly distributed pamphlets about how to one day overthrow their oppressors. Those humans were exceptionally adept at concealing their activities from their overlords. Then, when the Zarkesh warfront was dozens of systems away on their conquest of the universe, the moment arrived. The human leaders, long hidden in their secret refugees, had been meticulously planning while scraps of stolen Zarkesh technology were being painstakingly reverse-engineered by their scientists. They had been amassing resources for their uprising since the day they surrendered. While the Zarkesh gloated, the humans were preparing. And now, fully equipped, they launched their rebellion. It began subtly, as all uprisings do. A rebellious miner refusing to work here. A herder claiming his entire flock was decimated by some fabricated disease there. A factory explosion over yonder. Soon, larger disruptions to production followed. The human nation of France, with its long history of revolting against tyrants, erupted into riots, shouting Vive la Revolution. Don't ask me what that means. I never bothered learning human languages. A crate of plasma weapons disappeared. Then a grav tank wouldn't start. When inspected, its innards were completely stripped of power cells and anti-gravity components. The Zarkesh leaders dismissed these issues as trivial, but knew they needed addressing. So they hired the Shadowfang mercenaries and other guilds like ours to handle the troublemakers. Our services cost the Confederacy a pretty sum, I can tell you. That human planet, Terra, I think they call it, has at least 3 times the average galactic gravity. Every operative we deployed had to be equipped with a Gravisis suit and spend a week acclimating after making planetfall. Initially, our agents thought the human rebels were phantoms. They saw the aftermath of sabotage, but never any evidence of who was behind it. They'd patrol the streets, and suddenly, the streets would empty. Before the agent could question the emptiness, an explosion would rip through, sometimes taking the agent with it. One of our agents, enraged by the death of a comrade, went to a random, unrelated town and started executing humans when they couldn't provide answers about who was responsible. Unsurprisingly, a mob turned on him after the 3rd execution and tore him apart. I can't even blame the Zarkesh for not paying the death fee for that one. Our contract was to quell riots, not incite them. The contract was quickly going south. Sure, we were eliminating humans as paid, with the kind of surgical precision we were known for. But what's the use of money if you can't even escape the planet to spend it? Soon, we couldn't walk on the surface of their world without a heavy escort of Zarkesh troops. The humans would strike without warning and vanish into the crowds. On the human continent of Africa, an agent was lured onto the savannah while pursuing a human rebel, only to be ambushed by a pack of feline predators. Those humans had even coerced a lesser beast of their world into fighting alongside them. The number of agents we lost to the humans' canine companion species is beyond count. And the less said about the death trap the humans call Australia, the better. First, one regional command center went silent, then another. By the time the Zarkesh nobles finally noticed this growing problem, the entire planet had gone silent. And not just Terra, but everywhere humans had been sent to work, showed similar signs of rebellion. One can only assume they had been spreading revolutionary ideas to the other enslaved species under Zarkesh control. How they managed to communicate across the void of space remains a mystery. Before you ask, yes, the Zarkesh had patrol ships cruising the region to prevent just this kind of situation. But those ships had also fallen silent. The humans had infiltrated them, either destroying or capturing the vessels. These too were sent to their scientists for examination. And now, without Zarkesh oversight, the humans unveiled the secret factories and forces they had been nurturing for years. Massive manufactories churned out components for space docks and eventually starships, which the newly revealed launch facilities hurled into orbit, each weighing several thousand tons per day. By the time the light response vessels reached human space, they were no match for the modest fleet the humans had managed to construct using stolen Zarkesh technology. It's no exaggeration to say that the Zarkesh were undone by their own arrogance. Every time they lost a response vessel or patrol fleet, they would simply send another. They were too fixated on expanding their territories to notice the decay gnawing at their empire from within. When the Zarkesh finally grew weary of the cost of dispatching light response fleets into the area and redirected a conquest fleet from the front lines, the human homeworld and the next 3 systems in any direction had gone silent. When the conquest fleet arrived, 10 systems out from Sol, they encountered a fleet composed not just of humans, but of all the liberated species in the region. After this victory for the humans, the Zarkesh Emperor must have been growing anxious. All his fleets were on the far side of the galaxy, and the humans were now positioned between him and his armies. An urgent call went out for all fleets to return immediately to the imperial capital. And any guilds, like the Shadow Fang, were summoned to assist. By then, we had lost nearly 2/3 of our guilds, so we declined the call. It ultimately saved us. The humans, after decades of covert operations, had become adept at rooting out spies and saboteurs within their ranks. 7 other mercenary guilds were completely annihilated. We recognized it as a futile mission, no matter how much the Empire offered. While the Zarkesh fleet regrouped in their home system, plans were made to systematically spread out and scour the Empire for rebels. This ended up being the final nail in the coffin. You see, while the Zarkesh Empire consolidated and planned, the humans spread swiftly through the now enemy-free void, reached out to every subjugated species in the Empire, overthrew the Zarkesh administrators controlling them, and rallied them to the cause. Everywhere the humans went, they ignited the flames of rebellion, and the galaxy erupted. The powerless council in the part of the galaxy that had yet to be conquered by the Empire eagerly joined forces with the humans in their struggle. Across the Empire, the oppressed and enslaved were casting off their chains by the trillions and raising their fists in defiance. Forge worlds continued to produce ships, and agri-worlds continued to grow crops and livestock, but now for the new Galactic Alliance, not for the Zarkesh. Cut off from the supply lines that sustained the Zarkesh Empire, internal discord began to spread among the Imperial forces. Fleets of conquest dispatched from the Imperial capital never made it more than a dozen systems before they were ambushed by the Human Alliance. Much like on their homeworld, the humans struck like lightning and then vanished into the darkness. No matter how hard they tried, the Zarkesh fleets could never pin down the humans in a fair fight. This continued for months as the Zarkesh legions were slowly bled dry. Ambushes, false distress signals, EMP mines concealed in clouds of debris. Nothing was too underhanded for the humans, if it meant destroying the enemy. When the Allied fleets finally breached Zarkesh Prime, they found a starving and disintegrating fleet tearing itself apart. When the human admiral hailed the fragmented flotilla and the Zarkesh captains saw the immense size of the armada before them, they surrendered immediately. With the rebellion now concluded, after 3 years of conflict, the humans unleashed their most formidable weapon, lawyers. They dragged the Zarkesh Emperor himself from his throne, and all the Zarkesh nobles, administrators, and overseers who had ever oppressed a sentient being were rounded up. Then the humans subjected them to what has become our modern court system. It was far more civilized than Zarkesh courts, where the accused would be brought before the emperor or a representative, charges would be read, and the accused would be executed without the chance to defend themselves. By the time the trials ended, the emperor had died of old age, and his successor was compelled to rectify the wrongs done to the galaxy. The empire was shattered, and all that remains of the Zarkesh is a handful of systems in the distant reaches of the galactic southern arm. Many feared that the humans would turn around and conquer the galaxy for themselves. However, within a year of the Zarkesh surrender, the humans had dismantled over half their fleet and scattered the rest across the galaxy for pirate hunting and general peacekeeping. Our guild was incredibly fortunate that the humans recognized we had broken our contract. They spared us with the stipulation that the Shadow Fang be permanently dissolved. Those humans reduced us to a mere third of our original number before the rebellion even left their home planet, a third. We were the premier assassin guild in the galaxy, and now we are a loose, unnamed collective of independent operatives. So you see, young one, we don't kill humans. You kill a human, and their family will hunt you down. If you kill their family, the entire species will hunt you down. And you'd better hope they kill you. Because if their lawyers catch you, you'll be fortunate if your own people aren't forced to kill you as an apology. I had no idea. That much is painfully obvious. I don't usually pry into a client's business, but what did this human do to offend you anyway? They insulted my broodmate. The assassin laughed. Ha! Is that all? Then insult them back, you fool. If it really upsets you, then punch them in the face. But you said we don't kill humans, but those crazy apes love to spar with words as much as their fists. And you'll have a better chance of surviving that way. Odds are, you wouldn't be able to physically harm them, but if you took the time to explain that you were offended, they might even apologize. They would do that. They are monsters on the battlefield and demons when wronged. But they are not uncivilized. If they were, they couldn't have rebuilt the council to its current state. They hold the head chair position and will likely do so for generations to come. They are a resolute race, but fair in their adjudication. The assassin drained the last drops in his glass and looked mournfully at the empty vessel. Now then, my cup is empty. Unless you wish to refill it, I think we're done here. What? The target is a human. Experience the gripping tale of galactic defiance and the rise of the underdog. If this epic portrayal of rebellion and cunning strategy has captivated you, ensure to show your support by liking this image and subscribing to our channel. Don't miss out on future chapters of this extraordinary journey through the cosmos.